You're trying to buy TikTok.
I am, because this should be owned by U.S. businesses. There's no way that the Chinese would ever let a U.S. company own something like this in China. It would be a combination of investors, so there would be no one investor that controlled this. And the issue is all about the technology. This needs to be controlled by U.S.
Let me ask you
The app needs to be rebuilt in the U.S. It needs to be U.S. technology. I think there's a lot that could be done in 6 months.
Yep, that guy. Former Trump Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, who thought this Scrooge McDuck photo op with a sheet of dollar bills and his actress wife by his side, and who pocketed $1 billion from the killer Saudi prince on his way out the door from serving Trump, that guy is the one eager to scoop up TikTok, which is the least surprising thing ever. He doesn't tell us who exactly will be part of the consortium, but I'm sure that the current TikTok investor and Republican billionaire donor Jeff Yass, who just so happened to have sat down recently with Trump a few weeks ago, will probably want a piece of the action if past his prologue. It sure looks like these folks are looking to do to TikTok what Musk did to Twitter, Murdoch did in creating Fox, and Limbaugh did to talk radio. Joining me now is Robert Reich, who served as labor secretary in the Clinton administration. He is a professor of public policy at UC Berkeley. Robert, I'm glad that you were available because you were the one person who was as cynical as I, and you were saying my thoughts on your social media feeds, because as soon as I saw that the vote came through to make TikTok sell itself, I'm like, oh yeah, sell it to which billionaire? What do you make of the idea that it's that billionaire who's a MAGA billionaire?
Joy, this is really a billionaire's ball that they're having over TikTok. And you really do have to ask yourself, do you trust American billionaires to guard your privacy and not manipulate you any more than you trust who? The Chinese or anybody else around the world? I mean, American billionaires are owning more and more of our giant media conglomerates, our technology, and having more and more power in our system. So I think the real issue here is power, like it is in so many other domains of our life.
They're so afraid, and they're Democrats who believe this too, and Republicans, that China is going to come in and start manipulating the minds of our young people. I'm sorry. I just read a story about Discord and Telegram being used to feed suicidal intent into young people. You've seen it turn up in terrorism cases that people are plotting negative action and violence on these platforms. Twitter has become a dumpster fire of Nazism and hate under a American emigre from South Africa. You've had Facebook that was used by the Russians to manipulate Americans during the 2016 election. I could go on. So how is TikTok any different?
TikTok is not any different. And Joy, I want to just stress with you something you obviously know, and a lot of people out there do know. We really do have to start looking at these giant technology platforms as public utilities. They have to be regulated like public utilities. We used to have a whole body of law in this country governing public utilities. These are monopolies. These are network effects in terms of monopolies, and they have a huge potential for good, but also a huge potential for damage. And we've seen the damage. And it doesn't matter who owns it. It doesn't matter whether this billionaire or that billionaire or the Chinese or anybody else. We have got to understand that in our democracy, we Americans have a right to treat these as public utilities and have them regulated as public utility.
They don't have to ban it. They could simply regulate it. But that would be more like doing their job. And just on the idea of, so the hitch in terms of trying to steal the technology is that TikTok's algorithms are controlled by ByteDance engineers in China who answer to Beijing. After Trump tried to force TikTok's sale, he later lost in court. Beijing placed export restrictions on its algorithms. TikTok's U.S. algorithm operations could be sold, but not the key technology that powers the app, meaning that the algorithm would have to be rebuilt, which would mean that TikTok would go down temporarily. But I think your point is much more important, because the algorithms in the hands of MAGA-friendly people that would make TikTok more like Twitter would actually not increase decrease the danger, right? But it would. Let me ask you this question: Could members of Congress can invest in this stuff too, right? So
Absolutely.
if it's an American company, there's nothing stopping them from investing in it, is there?
No, and that's again a very important basic principle. Just because it's called an American company doesn't mean it's going to be functioning in the public interest. American companies don't naturally function in the public interest. Their purpose is to maximize their profits for their shareholders. And their shareholders are not just Americans. Their shareholders increasingly are worldwide. They're global. And so if these things are not regulated appropriately, if we don't understand that they have to be regulated, then again, it doesn't matter who owns them. The issue is who really has responsibility for making sure that they are responsible.
Absolutely. These things could be regulated. They don't have to be shut down. Lastly, the free speech aspect of it. There are a lot of people who wouldn't have a voice other than these platforms. What would it do to free speech to shut TikTok down?
Well, it would hurt free speech, obviously, in the sense that, and again, free speech, when we usually talk about the First Amendment, we're talking about the government and rights against the government. But with regard to these huge mega platforms, and they're very giant, they're monopolies. They have got to be, the people do need access to them.
Absolutely. And we are out of time. I'm running into the next show, so I'm going to stop you. Robert Reich, thank you very much. I appreciate you. That's tonight's Read It. On with Chris Hayes starts now.